I'm super excited, guys. I have a very special guest today. I think he's going to be able to really give some insights into some stuff that we haven't actually really talked about on this podcast before, but some really important aspects when it comes to entrepreneurship, some really special skills, some good insights. You've been in the business for many years now. I'll let you say the exact amount. But why don't you go ahead and just give yourself a little bit of an introduction for everyone who doesn't know you?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited for this. I've been looking forward to it all day. I've been on back-to-back meetings, and I've just been looking forward to the conversation. I love podcasts, and especially ones where I connect with the host. So that's always good. As for myself, to give your audience a brief intro, I've been in sales and business now for the last 12 years. I've worked in 7 different industries directly, skin in the game, involved in these industries. So I have tangible experience there. Nowadays, I do training and consulting work, so I'm exposed to all kinds of industries I've never even been in. So it's a completely different game nowadays, but that's a bit about my own background. It's very sales heavy, and we can talk about a lot of that stuff, but that's where we are today.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking the time. I know you're probably super, super busy. And yeah, I love podcasts too. I think it's such a good way to connect and also be able to share some value with each other's audience, which is awesome. The first thing I always like to get into in the podcast is kind of how you got started in entrepreneurship. Was this something that you've always wanted to do since you were young, or was it something that kind of came up later in life? How was that process for you?
Yeah, so I usually get into this, and I always say the same thing. I hate to sound like a broken record, but to give you the real answer, I have to go all the way back because it's a mix of nature and nurture, right? And I was born and raised in a different part of the world, moved over here, and just the sheer fact that we have so much opportunity here, I could not pursue these opportunities. I knew that I could create a much better life for myself. And for me, when I was younger, 16, 17 years old, still in high school, I wanted to pursue the path of self-education. I just knew I'm not going to go to university, go the regular route. I don't want a 9-to-5 job. It just wasn't going to be for me. And the lifestyle that I wanted was going to be in business. So I started to go to a lot of different conferences, invest in a lot of mentors, invest in myself, really get proximity to powerful people and learn more. And the more I learned, the more I realized sales is the most important thing to any business. Sales is what brings in revenue, client acquisition, client generation, client retention. That's what really every business is made up of. Without that, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. So I figured, if I could get good at sales, if I could, hone in on that skill, I could go into the corporate world, work my way up. I could build good relationships with different, leaders in different spaces. I could eventually venture out and easily get my own clients and run my own businesses. And that's pretty much what happened. That led me into sales and then eventually venturing out on my own.
I love it. I like that you always kind of knew you weren't going to go the traditional education route, but you still have so many options. I think a lot of people think, it's risky maybe to not go to college or university, which I didn't either. I was very similar. I never in my head had it that I was going to go on that traditional path and go to college or university and get a job in that kind of, path. So I love that you have that same mindset. And a lot of people think, as I was saying, that not going to college or university is going to kind of give them, less access to potential opportunities. But really, the other way around, like you're not boxed in at all. Like you were saying, you could climb the corporate ladder if you wanted to. You could start your own business. There's so many other things that you can do because of the skill set that you went out and learned and the experiences that you went and found, the networking I'm sure that you did, the self-development I'm sure that you did.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. People ask me for advice all the time. A lot of younger people, 18, 20, 25-year-olds, we're still debating on school, the formal route, or whatnot. And to me, my answer is always the same. I'm not going to give you the answer, for you. I'm not going to hand it to you on a silver platter. This is a decision that you have to make. It's your future. And, when I was younger, I wanted somebody to just give me the answer too. But I realized over time, that's not how it works. So the formal education route is good for some people. If you have a real purpose around that, then you pursue that. The self-education route or the business route is good for others. You have to look at your own circle of competence, what you do well. You have to look at your natural, inclinations, just your interests, your purpose or your passion. And people talk about this passion thing all the time, but the reality is to be successful at anything long-term, it requires longevity. You got to do it for a long period of time and do it at the highest levels. To be able to do that, you have to, on some level, like what you do, or at least have a purpose around what you do, because otherwise you'd be crazy to continue, right? So you do need that as well. So it's a hard one to answer, but again, I just like yourself, I figured, I want to go into business. I want to control my own future. And also, I learned the real definition of this like way later from, people like Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, all these investors. But I sort of operated on this philosophy even when I was way younger and before I even knew what the real definitions were. And what I'm referring to is risk. So you mentioned risk a couple of times, and people are talking about risk, and it's risky to now go to school or go into business. To me, risk is completely contextual, right? What we consider as risk, or most people consider as risk, is not actually risk. It's volatility. It's ups and downs. It's uncertainty. Risk is permanent loss. So if you're doing something where there's permanent loss of capital, permanent loss of friendship, whatever it might be, that's risk. It's permanent loss. But volatility is just mere ups and downs. So just like you go to school and try to get a job and try to pay off all that debt on you, that's going to have its ups and downs. And then ChatGPT comes along and your job is obsolete. That's volatility, or that's risk. Or you can go into business and have different types of risk. But you got to define that for yourself, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're seeing a lot of examples of that right now in a lot of industries that people thought were going to be so secure. Like going forward, maybe people did go that traditional path and they went to college, went to university, which is awesome. And then they got these jobs that they thought, I have security here. I have a solid paycheck, a steady income. I know what hours I'm going to work. We're seeing just so many people get laid off now. And all of a sudden it's like, well, what really was more risky? It's hard to say, like you were saying. It's the volatility of it. I think you shouldn't feel too comfortable in anything that you do. But I think something with entrepreneurship is that you have the skill set that can't be taken away. So even if that one job or opportunity doesn't work out, no one can take that skill set away from you. And you can go do the next thing or apply it somewhere else that's working right now. So it's hard to say. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I think everyone's super different. But, with their traditional, entrepreneurship, I don't know, it's risky. Like you were saying, like what really is risk. And I think we're seeing such a great example of that right now.
Yeah.
And we'll dive more into that too with, recession and everything. I really wanted to talk about that with you because I think you're a good person to talk about that with. And I think people should know about it and have some insight into that. So before we kind of get into that, you mentioned that you know the art of selling without selling, which I think is so key and so special, especially in this day and age. What I always like to say, I'm in social media marketing, of course, and when it comes to what we do at my agency, we don't really like to be salesy, as you can say. Like the content we create isn't hardcore selling. It's how do you kind of create this community or, create content that's going to speak to a certain audience, but you're not, the days of just being able to go and be like, hey, buy my thing. It doesn't really correlate. People don't like to necessarily be sold to. However, selling is so important. So how would you describe the art of selling without selling? How did you learn that? How are you kind of implementing that in your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, being in sales for so many different years across so many different industries, selling anywhere from high ticket to low ticket to any day-to-day product and service, pretty much any type of sales avenue under the sun, I've done it from door to door to B2B to phone sales to all kinds of stuff. So I got to really try a lot of things. I got to experiment when it came to sales. I remember when I was really young in sales, my first real career sales job, I was 19 turning 20, I believe. That was the first six figures I made. And I learned a lot there. And one of the things that I would do is I would literally tell myself that if I was in a scenario where I didn't see it coming to a conclusion, I would look at it as a fun type of thing and just try and experiment different things. So I would see how far I could push it. I would see, how much I could persist without, offending the person. I would see what lines there are. So I would just kind of experiment and, get to know where the edge of my competencies are when it comes to sales, but also what the market will accept. Also how creative can I get in the sales process? So I experimented with a lot of things. I mean, I haven't done the math. I have a couple times every time I get different numbers, but I've sat in front of tens of thousands of prospects in my years. So there's a lot that comes with that depth of experience. So it wasn't just as simple as, learn how to sell without selling. It was more like realizing, trying everything there is in terms of sales and then realizing that you're going to go far and long term, you're going to come out on top if you build real, genuine relationships, if you genuinely look to find the main problem that your prospect has and provide a real solution to that. And then, of course, make sure whatever you're selling, you believe in. The number one rule is don't sell something you wouldn't buy yourself. So as long as that's checked off, right? I can give you a couple more rules for your younger audience, but number one rule in sales, don't sell something you wouldn't buy yourself. If you check that off, then I feel absolutely confident, telling you to buy my thing, right? So there's no problem there because you're going to borrow my confidence. So my confidence better be there. And my confidence is going to be there if it's a good product or service. So it's really just, first of all, handling that, checking that box, and then identifying the real problem that maybe they're not even telling you verbally, but it's there because you can, again, you're experienced, you're a professional, and then pulling that problem out and then showing them exactly how you're going to provide a solution to that problem, and just framing everything in a way that, listen, I'm on your side, I'm on your team, right? I'm here to help you get the solution. I'm here to help you with my product and service. If it doesn't work for you, then there's nothing in it for me. If you don't win, I don't win, right? That's the way that it needs to be. And then, if it's communicated in that way and you're being direct and genuine and transparent, everything's up front, numbers are up front. But at the same time, I'm not saying, don't be persistent. Have that confidence in yourself and the fact that you can solve the problem. I think that's the ideal combination. Now, of course, there's a million layers to all of that. The sales process is very complex, but simply put, that's the way that I would go about it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm a big believer in authenticity, of course. So I really like the approach that you described. I think if you, first of all, yes, for sure, absolutely believe in what you're selling. Don't just sell something for the sake of selling it. You should totally believe in it. And I think if you really believe that the thing that you're selling is going to help the other person just as much or even more than it helps you, I think that's a good place to operate from. I think if you're not operating from that place, that's where sales has kind of a bad rep almost, where, salespeople are just trying to get money out of you, or, they kind of have that bad narrative around them. But I think when you're operating with how you said, like authenticity, you genuinely want to help people, the thing you're selling is going to benefit this other person. It's a really amazing thing. What are your thoughts around people that, have that bad narrative around sales? Do you ever get any kind of pushback with that when you say that you're like in sales? People are like, oh.
I've never gotten that directly. That's a funny question. I've actually never even been asked that.
Really?
I've never got, yeah. So great job on a first time question. That rarely happens. So yeah, I mean, I never get that because I feel like, as long as, again, you're a professional, you know how to communicate with people, because sales at the end of the day is just high level communication. You're an effective, high level communicator. This applies to your relationships, to your personal life, to a speaking gig that you're doing, to a podcast like this, to selling a product or service. It's all sales. So I feel like, just understanding human psychology and just being, again, in sales for so many years, I can usually have natural conversations, and I usually wouldn't get that. But if anybody said that to me, or if anybody said, just in general, I'm not a salesperson, or sales is bad, or, whatever else they may think, I would just tell you it's very simple. We're all in sales. Everything you do is sales, right? If you're a parent and you have kids, you're selling that kid all day, every day, on what to do, what not to do. If you're a teacher, you're selling your students, you're selling the classroom on that information, or on the fact that they should even pay attention to that information. If you're in business, of course, we know where sales comes in. If somebody's, very hardcore telling me I'm terrible at sales, I could never sell, even if you taught me everything, I wouldn't be able to sell. All I need to tell them is, you just sold me on how you're bad at sales. I mean, it's that simple. Everything is sales. We're all in sales. Sales is just high level communication. It's really that simple.
I love that. 100% agree. And I think what you touched on was perfect. Just, I think people have that limiting belief that they're like, oh no, I'm not good at sales. I don't like to sell. And I've even had this before too with my agency. I'm like, I love being creative. I love creating content. I'm not good at, and I was telling myself, I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at closing people, because it felt like this weird thing. But when you get over that and you're like, no, I mean, I'm offering a service, like, why does this have this bad connotation around it? And it was really just came down to my own limiting belief, and that I was having my own insecurities. And once I get over that, it's such a better way to operate, obviously. What advice do you have to kind of get over any sort of like limiting mindsets or anything like that? Like, I'm sure that you did a lot of mindset work and self-development in your years of entrepreneurship. So do you have any advice on, mindset and self-development?
Yeah, so I'd love to give you a piece of advice there, but just really quickly, if I can add one more comment to our last thread of conversation, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Okay. So on this whole topic of, just like yourself, a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners are, I'm the creative, I have this idea or this product, that service, and, I'm not really the sales type, or it's hard for me to pressure in sales, whatever it might be. I would just tell you, not only everything I just said, that sales is just high level communication and we all do it anyways. It's just some of us take responsibility for it and do a good job of it. Some of us, don't. But besides that, it's not even a choice. Whether you think you're good at it or not, whether you think you like it or not, all of it is irrelevant. And I feel like this is really missing for a lot of business owners, a lot of sales professionals, even a lot of entrepreneurs. So I felt the need to kind of share this. I felt compelled to share this. It really doesn't matter if you like it or not. The market doesn't care if you like sales or not. It's a necessity. It's something that you have to learn and you have to be good at. Your teams have to be good at. You have to get your information across and the value of your products and services across in the market, whether it's online through a funnel and sales copy, whether it's face to face, whether it's cold calling, whether it's door to door, it doesn't matter. If you want to get your products and services out there and genuinely have an impact, genuinely help people, it's not a choice. Besides all the realities of it, even if you choose to ignore that, in business, we don't have room for emotions. I mean, in business, the numbers tell the whole story, right? I used to have a mentor. She was maybe like 55 at the time. I was probably 17. And she gave me a ton of value. And one of the things she used to say is I had these trackers and gauges and that had numbers, stats, sales numbers, all of that. And every week or so, I would show her the numbers. And then I would try to explain, this week I had this going on, or this week, I tried something. And she would always say, just wait, let me read the numbers. Let me look at it for myself. And then she would always say, I don't need to hear your story because the numbers tell me the whole story, right? And that's what business is. That's what sales is. Thankfully, I learned that at a really young age. So I just wanted to comment on that before I answer the next question.
I love that. Guys, listen to that again. Honestly, I'm going to go back and listen to that again. That's such good advice. Like, I like the reality in that at the end of the day as a business owner, like this is what is going on. Yeah, that's awesome insight. And it's great to see, like you said, you learned that from a young age, and now seeing like where you've gotten to so quickly. I think that's a really good mindset to adopt. Next question was kind of how did you kind of get that self-development work or mindset work? Was there anything that you feel like was a game changer for you? Did you ever have the limiting beliefs and insecurity, or were you kind of off the gate have this confidence?
No, absolutely. I mean, of course, everybody has their own self-doubts. Everybody has the so-called imposter syndrome. Everybody has the, limiting beliefs from time to time. They may be different degrees. I may have a buddy who has a limiting belief around breaking the 100 million barrier, and I might have a limiting belief around breaking the 10 million barrier. It may differ, but everybody has their own limiting beliefs and whatnot. So a couple different answers for you there. One of them is, since a very young age, I came on to Jim Rohn's content. I always talk about him as, my first and real valuable mentor that, stuck with me over time. And one of the main things he used to say is work harder on yourself than you do on your job or business. As long as you do that, the rest is handled. And I took that to heart. I read every single book there is, all the ones you see behind me and many more. I really invested in myself. I really, looked to get better in every way possible. There's another guy, General Patton, very famous general in the U.S. Army, books about him, movies about him. You can find them. I recently just revisited his autobiography. Again, took a ton from that. He used to say, you need to strive for perfect daily discipline in all things. Now, that sounds crazy, sounds obsessive, sounds all that, which I love. That's speaking right to my nature, so I'm good with it. But most people will be scared by that, right? But the point of that is just to strive for higher standards, to raise your personal standards. Going back to Jim Rohn again, he used to say, instead of, in your job or going to your boss and asking for a raise, just raise yourself, right? And that goes for business. We can't ask for raises as an entrepreneur. You got to raise yourself to get more clients, to charge more for your products and services. So it's the same thing. So yeah, a combination of a ton of investing in myself, reading books, and then eventually getting into rooms where I'm in the room with entrepreneurs that are famous celebrity entrepreneurs. I'm working with large corporations that everybody knows about. You know their names. So when you get into those rooms and then add more of that experience to yourself, to your own life, to your own perspective, you realize it's not that crazy. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of work. There's no magic to it, right? And I have one exercise that I used to do for myself since I was younger, and I think it would help your audience. And I do a variation of that nowadays. But before I share that, I'll just turn it over to you if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh. So true. I think with entrepreneurship, getting to that next level, whether it be income-wise or a certain level of something you want to get to, you have to become the person that can achieve that before you achieve it, if that makes sense. You have to get to make $10 million in your business. You first need to become somebody who can do that. You need to become that person that day to day. What does that look like? What is that person's mindset like? What is their habits like? You need to think about that. And you mentioned getting into the room with people that are essentially more successful than you at the end of the day. Like, you don't always want to be the big fish in the small pond. You got to go and be around those other people. For sure. I've just been scraping the surface with that in the last few months, maybe a year, getting into those rooms. And it truly is such a game changer with your mindset, like how open your mind can be, how big things can really be. You can get so stuck on your own goals. I know for me, like my biggest dream of life was like, if I could make $10,000 a month, oh my God, like there's nothing bigger in this earth. And I got there and I was like, okay, this is cool. It was exciting, of course. And then you get into these other rooms and people are talking about small businesses being like 10, $20 million businesses. I'm like, oh, I am so playing small and I don't need to be playing small. There's so much out there. And being around people who think that way and have such open minds, you just can't imagine what it can do for you. So yeah, that was
100%.
awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, you always don't know what you don't know. And then you get into certain rooms and just your entire perspective opens up. And like you said, you realize you've been playing small. It takes the same amount of time, energy, effort to think. So whether you're thinking big or thinking small, it takes the same amount of time and energy and effort. You may as well just think big, right?
Yeah.
You're going to raise yourself to those personal standards that you have for yourself. So that's a big one. So the exercise that I'll share with you and your audience that I was doing, and this exercise when I was, I believe, 23 or so. I'm just throwing out numbers from my memory, obviously, as best as I can remember. But I think I was around 23, and I pretty much tripled my income at that point into multiple six figures in that year. The exercise was, I told myself every quarter of the year I'm going to make a major investment in myself. At that point, major for me was 5K. So every quarter was 5K investment in myself. It could have been anything. It could have been a mentor. It could have been a go to a conference, fly there, sit VIP, meet some people. Could have been courses or books or whatever else. And I did that year. And that year again, I tripled my income. Got into some bigger opportunities and positions. And there's no coincidence there. If you think it's a coincidence, sure, you can think that. I'm telling you, as the person who went through it, it was not a coincidence, right? So, all of that is just a part of it. So that would be, I guess, the second answer to your question of how to break those limiting beliefs. And the third piece of that I just want to share with you is through action. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Sometimes I offend people because I'm very straightforward and direct on the whole law of attraction and secret and manifestation and all that stuff. It's all good. I have nothing against it. It's great to be spiritual, to be in tune with that. I'm actually extremely spiritual in a different way, in a weird way that I can't really even explain, to be honest. But I'm just not a believer in that type of stuff. I believe in the law of action. I believe the way that you build that real confidence in yourself is by making promises to yourself and then keeping those promises, right? So the third answer to that would be, if you have limiting beliefs, just set some goals and targets, shorter term, 3-month, 6-month, 12-month goals, and get after it. Do everything you need to do to make it happen. Check those boxes off, and it's going to prove to yourself, that you could do this. It's going to help you go a lot further than you thought you could. So through action is how you build that real confidence, that lasting confidence.
I love the investing in yourself quarterly. That's such a good idea. I think that's a really actionable thing that everyone can take away and meet yourself with where you're at. Like you were saying, 5K was like a really big investment for you at the time. Like that's awesome. Even if you're listening to this and like $100, if you did $100 on a masterclass, a book, a course, whatever, like start that habit small and grow as you can. Cause like you said, it's definitely not a coincidence. I think any successful person, I'm looking at my own business too, the times in my business where I was putting a lot of effort and investing in myself and going to things like conferences, masterminds, doing those, even traveling for it. Like it's so powerful to put yourself in that situation. It's kind of like when you go into a free webinar, or if I have hosted free webinars or masterclasses, for example, there's such a difference between people who come for a free thing and people who pay for it. Like the way you show up is so different. I'm not saying just like go throw your money at things so that you do it, but investing in those things is very worth it. And you're going to show up differently rather than watching free YouTube videos, which is also great place to start. But investing and going to those higher quality things is like absolutely. Touching on the secret and manifest stuff, I'm really glad you brought that up too, because Like I'm totally with. I grew up watching The Secret. I'm all about that stuff. I journal every day. I'm all about it. I think where people miss the mark with that is taking action. Like you can journal till the cows come home, and that's great because you're opening your mind up and you're building that belief. But if you're not taking action, you're not proving anything to yourself. You're not going to get anywhere. You can't dream about running a marathon and write about running a marathon and then just go run a marathon. It doesn't really work like that.
Mhm.
I think there needs to be, a balance of both, and action is the most important part of entrepreneurship. So I think with that, I think don't be afraid to take messy action. I always say it doesn't need to
Mhm.
be perfect. Any action is action. Even 1% a day is good.
Yeah, and you nailed it. People take me the wrong way too because they feel like I'm just hating on all that secret or
Right.
manifestation stuff. I'm not. I hate on various aspects of that entire community because I see it. It's a common pattern, and I just hate to see people stuck in these cycles where they're not getting results, they're unhappy, they're not financially successful, and they're still telling themselves, I'm manifesting $1 million tomorrow. It's just not how it works. You can sit on your couch and manifest all day long. Matter of fact, I suggest most of you do because it just leaves more market share for me. Because somebody who's going to wake up every day and get after it, good luck trying to compete with me if you're sitting on your couch trying to manifest your business while I'm actually up 4 or 5 a.m. every single day getting after it. So, the reason I talk about the law of action is because I want to put my finger on the one thing that will 100%, without a shred of a doubt, move the needle, right? The other stuff is
Yeah.
great. The other stuff is working on you. And as I already said, I've believed in that since I was 15, 16, 17 years old. You work harder on yourself than you do on your job or business. I remember being 17, waking up at 5 a.m. and watching Jim Rohn and reading freaking Bob Proctor and Eckhart Tolle and whatever else. And I've done it all. I'm talking about this from a place of experience. I've tried a million different morning routines. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's just about the work. It's as simple as that. That work is what gives you confidence. And if you're going to invest in something, yeah, read those books and all that as well. But invest in tangible things. Learn the skills like marketing, like what you do, sales. Learn these skills that are economy proof, that are industry proof, that are adding value to the market, because that's how you're going to get to where you want to get to. The rest is all good. I have nothing against it. Believe it or not, sounding like the person that I am, who's completely not spiritual or anything at all, which is true in some ways. I'm actually reading the Orthodox Bible right now, and I'm about to read all the other
Really?
religious books after that. Yeah, because I love inspiration in all things. I look everywhere for inspiration and for knowledge. I remember one of these days, a few nights ago, I was just randomly opened up the Orthodox Bible and I just read one little verse, and it says something like, "Don't travel the wide gate, take the narrow gate, because the wide gate is widely traveled and leads to wide destruction." I read that one line. It got seared into my brain, and it resonated on such a deep level with me from my business experiences, and I loved it. So yes, I do look for inspiration in all things, but that is not the number one priority. Number one priority is to do the work, the law of action, get after it. That's how you get results.
Yeah, I love that you stay open, you stay curious of new ways to get inspired or new perspectives, even though, most would be in your position to be like, yeah, I'm successful, I'm good, I'm chilling, I did it, I made it. But true entrepreneurs with that spirit is like, you're always going to be a student, you're always learning, you're always wanting to open your mind to new, perspectives and how much larger can you go. So I love that you're just trying new things and open to that. But going back to, yeah, those skills at the end of the day, you can get this inspiration and have this self-development there, and that's so important. You do need that. And then learning these skills is such a powerful, actionable thing that you can do to start actually building your business or making income and be essentially recession proof, which is something I really want to talk about, because those are skills that cannot be taken away from you. So talk a little bit about kind of, maybe advice that you have for people that are seeing this recession and people are really scared and they don't know what to do. They feel a lack of security, but maybe, people like you don't have that lack of security. You're like, I have the skill set, I have the confidence, like I can do this. So kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to your earlier question about how are you so confident. I haven't felt that lack of security since I was maybe 19, 20 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of the skill of sales, the skill of knowing that you could literally drop me anywhere on this planet, any country, any language, any culture, and tell me to really go into any industry. It really doesn't matter, and I could go in and within 2 weeks to a month, I'll be crushing it. And not only crushing it, not only doing sales and making some money, I'll be the top of that industry. And I've done that over and over again, so I have no questions on how that's possible. There's definitely an ingredient towards that, so I'd be happy to share that with you. But it's just to make yourself economy proof, recession proof, to do well in these times. You have to realize a couple things. First things first, you have to have the right mindset and outlook. So again, quick little sidebar here. We talked about manifestation and the mindset and all that stuff not being everything. As you can see, it's a common thread here. It is a huge part of it. Your outlook determines your outcome. So your outlook better be solution oriented. Your outlook better be positive long term. So your outlook is really important. So I would say times of maximum pessimism and doubt and fear and uncertainty are also times of great opportunity. Now, there are a few different ways that you could go about that. First of all, I could tell you from just my own network, I've been on a few calls over the last probably 2 to 3 years. Let's just say from 2021 to where we are today. I've been on different calls, high-level individuals, individuals who are running 9-figure plus businesses. And the common talk that I've been hearing over and over and over again since 2021 is everybody's dialing back, everybody's afraid, everybody's cutting the investments into their businesses, everybody's putting the brakes on. This is where we accelerate. This is where we expand into the market. This is where I know one guy specifically I'm thinking about right now. He was going and buying up a ton of businesses. So it's times like this where real success is built, where the real foundations are laid, so that you look back in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, however long it takes for us to get back into the booming economy we were in. You're in a good position. You're crushing it. Everything's flowing in. But it's times like this where, I would say you have to be contracting and expanding at the same time. It's a bit of a fine line to walk. By contracting, what I mean is you cut out anything that is not contributing towards your main priority, your main purpose, your goals. I mean, if you want to take that on a personal level, depending on what chapter of life you're in, take it on a personal level. Cut out some negative people. Stop wasting time. Stop smoking or drinking, whatever that means for you. Contract in that way. Start to eliminate and cut certain things that aren't producing for you in your life or in your business. If you're a business owner and you got a million different tools and automations you use and a bunch of overhead, maybe do an audit and cut some of that overhead, whatever else. So you want to contract in that way. Maybe cancel your Netflix account because you probably don't need to be watching Netflix anyways right now. You might need to be working on your business. So do those things. Maybe don't go to Starbucks, make your coffee at home, whatever. So look to be a bit smarter and wiser with your money because you want to have cash on hand. You want to have excess capital to deploy so you can take advantage of these opportunities. But at the same time, that's the flip side of that. You also want to be expanding. I would say you want to always expand, but especially in these times, right? You really want to be expanding into the marketplace. So I would double down on branding. This is stuff you do, right? Marketing, branding. I would double down on really going hard sales-wise. I would double down on creating multiple different offers that are extremely valuable to the market so I can serve whatever your niche or industry is, serve the lower end of that space and the higher end of that space, and look at multiple different avenues how you can set that up. I would look at really accelerating aggressively. That's the way that I would go about it. Contract and expand at the same time because times of maximum pessimism are also times of maximum opportunity.
I 100% agree. Yeah. When I look at, times like this where there is a lot of uncertainty and everything, to me, I look at it with a lot of opportunity. And I love what you said. It's just kind of a shift of perspective. Like, what now are you going to use your resources and time on? What you spend that time on in this next little while is really going to dictate what the next few years look like for you. Like you said, when the economy does come up and it's booming again, what position are you going to be in is really dictated on what you do right now. So especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner listening to this isn't the time to get scared and, quit. Unfortunately, I have seen a lot of people, have that fear and it's so deep that they're just don't even want to try and they are scared and they want to do something that they feel right now has security. But the ones who, it's almost like a test a little bit. The ones who can stick it out and figure it out, switch that perspective are going to win big in the long run.
Absolutely. And, maybe the people that are quitting right now, maybe you're not meant to be a quote unquote entrepreneur anyways. Maybe you have better skills that will serve you elsewhere. or maybe that wasn't the right product or service or space for you to be in. Maybe use this time to take a step back, reflect, and pivot, and do something you're going to do well. I have a quick test that I think would help your audience if you're interested to hear around
Yeah,
how to know if you're in the right space or not.
I love that. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so here's a quick test. It's super quick. I think it's even quicker than you expect. The test is whatever you're doing right now, whatever job or business you have right now, if I told you that if you stayed in it, you would have to do it for the next 3 years, 7 days a week, 12-hour days, would you still do it? Would you be in it? Would you be excited about that? Would you, or would you say, hell no, I'm out. I'm not willing to commit to it at that level. That's the quick test, because I guarantee you there's somebody out there like you, like me, who's willing to commit to it at that level. And you're not going to compete with that person. So you want to find that space or that area where you're willing to commit the next 3 years, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and really get after it with that level of commitment.
I think that's a perfect thing to kind of reflect on right now in these times if you are feeling that uncertainty, because it's true, entrepreneurship in general can be hard to stomach for a lot of people. There is going to be those times. And not to say that entrepreneurship isn't for you, but maybe the route you're going down right now isn't for you. Like you said, you can always switch. And that's something I really like about entrepreneurship, is that it's not necessarily like, oh, you need to give up and quit. It's how can we shift? Can I learn something new? Can I add a new skill set on top of this? Can I change my mission? There's lots of ways you can go. So I think that's a perfect thing to reflect on right now as we're in these times. And maybe if this is you and you're listening, you're like, yeah, I think I need to take a step back. It's okay. That's a perfect time to do so. And then others who are in it, and they can use this time to really build that foundation really well. So yeah, thank you so much. I feel like you gave so much really actionable, valuable insight and advice to everybody watching this. I think everyone's going back with a lot to think about and a lot of, things that they can implement into their own lives and business. So thank you so much for all of your insights.
Not a problem. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully they got some actionable value out of this, and I'd be happy to come back on again and share value. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, yes. So before we go, let everyone know, what are you working on right now? How can people work with you? How can they find you?
Sure. So I'm mainly focused on doing consulting work. So I work with individuals, sales professionals, small business owners, really all over the world, all different industries and backgrounds. I'd be happy to add value where I can. You can find me on any social platform. It's at Pouya Haidari, or you can just go pouyahaidari.com, learn a bit more about myself, and you can also schedule a call or let us know on any social platform that you came from Kelsey's show and from her audience base. We'll do something cool for you. We'll throw in a free gift. I'll hop on a call with you myself. We'll do something for you as a favor.
Wow, thank you. That's huge. That's awesome. Everyone definitely go take them up on that. We'll link everything in the show notes as well, so everyone can easily go get all your links and your website, social medias. And thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I'm excited for everybody to go learn more about you.
My pleasure. Thank you.